Have you ever stopped to notice how, even surrounded by achievements, something inside you seems unfinished, as if there was an invisible gap, an emptiness that no victory can fill? Sometimes it seems that we are living a story we do not choose, repeating scenes that do not belong to us, as if we were distant from ourselves without even realizing it. But is what we call ideal life really our genuine desire? And to what extent can our own longings ignore the real reason for our silent suffering? Carl Jung, undeniable reference in the field of deep psychology, has offered us a precious key. What you live outside is a direct reflection of the way it relates to you. The bond it keeps with its essence shapes each choice, every sense of peace or discomfort. And what he has revealed goes far beyond successful empty formulas. Jung understood that the root of almost all modern suffering is not in diagnosable diseases, but in rupture with what we really are. If this content is making sense to you so far, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, leave your like and share with someone who can also benefit from this reflection. This helps us lead this message to more people who are looking for a more conscious and true life. And enjoy and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I will love to know how far this conversation is coming. We live in an age that pushes us out of us. Social networks, family charges, external pressures, everything contributes to an existence that often does not dialogue with our interior. Jung noted that in many cases his patients were not sick in the traditional sense. What eroded them was the absence of meaning, the distance of themselves. And this is not rare. How many times have you felt that you are not wanting to be doing what you would not like to do? This restlessness is not a mistake of your system. It is the silent language of the unconscious trying to rescue you. It is a legitimate sign that something needs to be reviewed, and when this message is ignored, the body and mind charge, anguish, tiredness, discouragement, conflicts that repeat. All this can be just the manifestation of a suffocated soul. But there is output, and it starts the moment you dare to choose. Jung described this awakening as the process of individuation, a crossing towards authenticity. According to him, the greatest achievement of a life is to truly become who is. Only this does not happen by inertia. It requires confrontation, constancy, and, above all, courage. Courage to say yes to oneself, even when the world screams no. And to start this transformation, I propose a simple but powerful exercise. Think now about the last great choices you made. How many of them did they really come from their intimate? And how many were shaped by the fear of failing, the desire to please others, or simply by the routine that seems impossible to break? Do not criticize for the answers. Just notice, this perception is the first step towards reconnecting with you. Whenever you neglect yourself, ignoring your own values, dreams, and priorities, you are sending a silent but powerful message to yourself. I don't matter that much. Over time, this internal disconnection becomes an external imbalance. Relationships lose depth, career loses brightness, and life becomes weight rather than fulfillment. But Jung's view points to another direction. Giving yourself priority is not a selfish act. In fact, it is one of the most sincere forms of generosity. Because only when you respect yourself and really welcome you have something true to share with the world around you. And it is exactly this you true that the world is waiting. Jung said wisely, clarity is born when one observes what is stored in the heart. The individual who only looks abroad remains stuck in illusions, but the one who looks inside wakes up to reality. This awakening marks the beginning of true self-love. I do not refer to love diluted in ready-made sentences or edited images, but to the deep recognition of all its parts, including, and above all, of those you hid. To this, Jung named the shadow, a powerful concept that encompasses everything we repress. Desires considered unacceptable, insecurities, non-processed pain, buried fears. We all carry this luggage. This rejected part contains precisely what we often need to complete. Ignoring your shadow is like trying to walk without one leg. You even move, but ground, get tired and get lost. Cultivating genuine self-love requires embracing this shadow. Not to choke it or hide it even more, but to understand and integrate it as an essential part of your identity. As Jung said, where there is light, there is shadow, and there is no completeness without contradiction. Now, imagine what it would be like to exist without that severe judgment that pursues you, without the inner voice that insists on pointing failures. Imagine if you could see your weaknesses not as flaws, but as sincere expressions of your human condition. This view is not utopia. It is the basis of a real cure. This is the natural unfolding of when one decides to welcome himself with truth and depth. Maybe now you are wondering, it seems transformative, but where to start? How to reverse a lifetime of teachings that always put others first? The answer is straightforward, but requires bravery. The starting point is in the internal listening. Whenever that discomfort arises, a persistent doubt or a strong emotion stops for a moment. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is my soul trying to reveal? Jung has always argued that the answers we seek are not out, but already dwell within us. Who directs the look only to the outside world remains dreaming. Those who look at themselves wake up. Your unconscious is always dialoguing with you. He sends clues, signs, sensations. The challenge is that we almost never allow ourselves to listen. We live accelerated, distracted, afraid to stop and hear. But when you start paying attention to these subtle signs, you discover a force that has always been present, a force called authenticity. And as Jung has demonstrated in your deep studies about the human soul, living aligned with whom you are truly is what opens the doors for real welfare and successful success. Care with oneself is neither apathy nor vanity. It is not limited to optimistic statements before the mirror, although this may be a symbolic beginning. It is, above all, a movement of inner firmness. It involves tracing healthy borders. It means having the courage to deny what hurts your values, even if it displeases. It means prioritizing your emotional balance, even if life has taught you the opposite. Jung spoke with lucidity. I recognize where my limits are, and this clarity is part of the journey of self-knowledge. Without awareness of their own limits, there is no understanding of yourself. And without this understanding, living becomes only repetition of patterns. Putting limits is one of the most powerful forms of love for yourself. It is not about lifting barriers, but of making more sincere paths to relate. By doing this, you communicate to the world, I know my value. I have respect for me and zeal for my peace, and that changes everything. Reflect for moments. How many times have you accepted something that contradicted your feelings just so as not to displease? How many times has you sacrificed your tranquility in the name of the approval of others? And how did you feel later? Probably exhausted, resentful, far from you. But when choice becomes your own care, when you protect your energy and value your needs, something powerful happens. You bloom, and your bonds bloom with you. Because deep down, no one wants to make ties with a mask. The truest and lasting bonds are born when you are full, with hits and flaws, with shine and darkness. This was one of the most impactful findings in Jung's clinical work. He realized that individuals capable of looking at each other sincerely and welcoming the totality of what they are, it was precisely those who experienced deeper and healthier relationships. Not because they have achieved any ideal of perfection, but because they have renounced the need to be perfect and chosen instead to live authenticity. Jung said, fully accepting is the core of the moral question and the key to a new view of existence. When you learn to embrace who you really are, it no longer becomes hostage to the approval of others, no longer obliged to shape expectations that make no sense to their essence. And it is precisely this freedom that makes room for real connections. Think for a moment, are the most admirable people in your life who seem genuinely like themselves without effort to fit in. There is a serene force in those who simply decided to be. They do not need to convince or prove, they just exist, and that is enough. It is in this internal place that self-love manifests itself more potently. This is where you begin to realize that you need not be impeccable to be worthy. Just be you. With this solid basis of personal acceptance, it is possible to create a reality aligned with its true self, not the image you thought needed to project. Jung translated this into an impactful phrase: "I am a result of the choices I made." This seemingly simple statement carries the depth of self-esteem as a pillar of an authentic existence. For genuine success, one who translates into the sense, not just in achievements, is born of decisions made from what is essential to you. And when you start choosing yourself with intention, your vibration transforms. You stop fighting your own nature, forcing papers that do not belong to you, starts to live in tune with what it really is. And this internal state of consistency is liberating. In this freedom is the true triumph, for as Jung revealed, no victory is greater than that of becoming, in fact, who is. Everything else, recognition, good relationships, even material achievements, are only reflections of this alignment with its essence. But Jung also warned, this trajectory is neither simple nor comfortable. In honesty, is one of the most challenging experiences that someone can live, because it is not just about seeing their powers, but also of facing the wounded parts, hidden fears, and everything that has been hidden in the shadows. However, it is exactly in this confrontation with the darkest in itself that resides its true strength. When you stop fearing the hidden aspects of your personality and leave the habit of repressing or denying them, a surprising amount of creative energy is released. What was once consumed in internal conflicts becomes power to act, express, and connect. Jung called this individual movement, a continuous process that leads us to the integration of all parts that make up our being. This is not an endpoint that is reached and never touched, but a daily route where each choice represents a new step towards authenticity. And when you truly surrender to this path, something begins to change. Your internal perception is tuned. That voice that once seemed distant or muffled begins to guide more sharply. Their decisions have not only logic, but also a deep meaning that resonates with their essence. For Jung, intuition was a direct way of communication with the unconscious, a pure way of realizing what reason does not always achieve. It's that immediate feeling of knowing that something is right or wrong without the need for elaborate justifications. But to hear this inner wisdom, it is necessary to silence the excess of stimuli around. It requires the construction of confidence in yourself above the expectations imposed from outside. It is not simple, especially in a world that all the time tells us who we should be, what we should desire, and which model to follow. But each time you listen to your own truth instead of bending to the outside, you strengthen the connection with your center. And this gesture, repeated with constancy, is one of the deepest forms of self-love. As this connection deepens, you begin to notice what Jung has appointed synchronicity, seemingly random events that surprisingly fit perfectly on your journey. This is not magic or chance. It is the reflection of a life lived in harmony with its true self. Remember at some point when everything seemed to work with fluidity. Doors opened effortlessly, right people appeared at the exact time, and each step took him naturally ahead. What was special at this stage? If you look with sincerity, you will see that it was more aligned with your values, more connected to who you really are. Jung has seen this countless times in his clinic. When a person lives in coherence with his inner world, the external world begins to reflect this alignment. Not because things change by magic, but because you come to see possibilities that have always been there, only before you could not recognize because you are disconnected from yourself. It is love for itself that opens the door to this internal wisdom, the one that silently indicates the best direction, shows which chances are worth it, and with whom it is worth following. Creating from its essence, not the need for external acceptance, is what generates true, lasting, and aligned achievements with who you are. However, walking the path of authenticity does not mean absence of difficulties. In fact, the biggest tests usually come up just when you decide to put yourself first. It is as if the surrounding environment, used to its most submissive version, seek to challenge it all the time. Jung perfectly understood this dynamic. In his teachings, he reinforced that real growth is born only from the brave crossing between the pain. Overcoming suffering happens through his conscious experience, not because there is merit in suffering itself, but because it is facing the obstacles with honesty we flourish. In valuing your needs, imposing boundaries, and living according to its essence, it is inevitable that you face reactions. Some people will not understand this transformation. Others will feel threatened by their new posture. And sometimes your own mind will try to sabotage your evolution, rescuing old fears and insecurities. But with every step you take despite these obstacles, reaffirms your choice for yourself. This repeated gesture is a silent proof that you deserve to be respected. Be careful and live with authenticity. As Jung said, "I am who I am because I made this choice." A simple but forceful statement, because it reveals that the true success is more than you become than in the medals you collect. And becoming you, all the most valuable of all victories. But how to develop this genuine love for you? Jung left us ways. The first is the sincere inner dive. Create small daily connection rituals with your inner world. This can take place in times of meditation, in the practice of reflective writing, or even in moments of silence attentive. Ask yourself, what do I really feel now? What do I really need? Does this choice resonate with my heart? Then look at what you hide. Instead of escaping the aspects that does not appreciate itself, learn to identify and welcome them. Jung taught that it is not the expansion of light that dissipates darkness, but the recognition of what is in the shadows. When you embrace these hidden aspects, it releases an immense force that was once fought by rejection. Finally, listen to your dream. For Jung, dreams are precious messages from the unconscious. They often bring subtle guidelines that the mind awakens still cannot understand, but that already point the right way to follow. Write down your dreams in a book reserved for this, and watch carefully the repeated symbols and themes. Moreover, approach those who value their true essence. Jung understood that the environment in which we live has a direct influence on our ability to be authentic. Invest in ties that encourage your inner truth to flourish, not relationships that push you to play distant roles of who you really are. By incorporating this type of practice into your routine, profound changes begin to happen, even if initially seem subtle. Your choices gain more sharply. Their relationships become more true. Your professional activity starts to carry a different purpose. And perhaps for the first time, you feel really comfortable within your own skin. This sense of internal belonging represents the basis of true love for itself. This is not a goal that is achieved and ready. It is a daily construction, a constant attention, a path that goes throughout life. But with each new step, you approach an entire existence with more sense and real fullness. Jung said wisely, "Vision only becomes clear when he looks inside. The one who directs the lookout just dreams, but what turns to the interior itself awakens. And this awakening, yes, is the true success. Because there is no greater victory than living a life that really has your face. By practicing a love for yourself, if it is firm and true, you begin to build a kind of success that does not depend on external factors, a trajectory based on its deepest essence. And this tune with the most authentic in you is a transformative force. It is no coincidence that the most memorable and influential individuals in history have also been deeply authentic. Just remember names like Mandela, Frida Kahlo, or Jung himself. What made them extraordinary was not absence of failures, but the courage to remain faithful to themselves, even in the face of opposition. Jung expressed this clearly: the greatest privilege of life is to become what is really. This is the central mission of our existence. Do not accumulate medals or applause, but unveil and manifest our genuine identity. And in doing so, we play such full achievement that no external success can match. Now think, what would it be like to live from this place of acceptance and truth? How would your ties change? What impact would you have on your health, on your energy, on your purpose? When we stop fighting what we are and begin to live in tune with our essence, everything transforms. The journey, of course, will have obstacles. There will be days when you will hesitate, when old habits will seem easier just for being known. But even in these challenging moments, remember, choosing yourself is not selfishness. It is actually one of the noblest and most brave expressions someone can have. The truth is simple. Only those who love each other sincerely be able to offer true affection to the other. As Jung reminded us, facing his own essence is among the most uncomfortable challenges of life. But there is no home on a loose, covered soil. And the more this internal excavation is said, the greater the burden to carry. Therefore today I invite him to take the first step on this walk towards deep love. Not as a narcissistic gesture, but as an intimate pact with its truth and the impact it can generate on the world. For by choosing yourself honestly, when living consistently with your own essence, you not only transform your own story, but it also becomes a lighthouse for those who still walk in darkness. And at a time when truth is lacking courage and genuine lack, your authenticity can be the greatest gift you offer to the collective. Loving yourself is the foundation of any real success. It is not a trophy to be conquered, but a daily choice. A continuous practice, a renewed attitude every moment. And every time you choose to honor your essence, you are cultivating fruits that go beyond what you have ever imagined harvesting. It is no coincidence that the most memorable and influential individuals in history have also been deeply authentic. Just remember names like Mandela, Frida Kahlo, or Jung himself. What made them extraordinary was not absence of failures, but the courage to remain faithful to themselves, even in the face of opposition. Jung expressed this clearly: the greatest privilege of life is to become what is really. This is the central mission of our existence. Do not accumulate medals or applause, but unveil and manifest our genuine identity. And in doing so, we play such full achievement that no external success can match. Now think, what would it be like to live from this place of acceptance and truth? How would your ties change? What impact would you have on your health, on your energy, on your purpose? When we stop fighting what we are and begin to live in tune with our essence, everything transforms. The journey, of course, will have obstacles. There will be days when you will hesitate, when old habits will seem easier just for being known. But even in these challenging moments, remember, choosing yourself is not selfishness. It is actually one of the noblest and most brave expressions someone can have. And now that we get here, tell me, at some point in your life, you have felt you were living to please others, leaving your own truth aside. Have you ever been disconnected from who you really are? How was this process for you? If this has resonated with some experience of yours, share in the comments. Your story can inspire other people who are going through something similar. And take the opportunity to tell me too, which city are you watching this video from? I would love to know how far this conversation is reaching and who is on this journey with us. If this message made sense to you, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone who may need to hear just that today. Together we are building a space for exchange, authenticity, and growth, and it's great to have you here.